days later, I get a call, and I answer that phone call. And the first thing he says is they took everything from me.
What?
And I was in shock. I was like, what do you mean?
Welcome to More Than an Inmate's Girlfriend. I'm your host, Jay, and thank you for joining us today. We are diving into an episode centered around the rodeo. And I'm going to leave it at that because we go into detail a lot more in the episode about it. I don't want to keep you too long in the intro here because it is a longer episode. Very quickly, the one thing that I want to mention, I had to cut down the episode. And in cutting down the episode, I had to remove a part where Carla gives praise to a prison in Louisiana and specifically a warden. And I feel really guilty about having to cut it. So I want to give a brief mention of it because she did say this and I wish I could have fit it in somehow, but I couldn't. And she says that the prison, David Wade in Louisiana, has been really helpful and has responded to her, and she really appreciates the warden and they've changed and she wants people to kind of give that prison a second chance because I guess it's had a bad rap. I think it's important because there's so much negativity around the Department of Corrections that when there is a good situation, a good story, I really want to make sure it's highlighted. So anytime that anything good or anyone has something good to say, I really want to hold on to that. And I don't want to let the episode go without mentioning that. It was important to me. So she did say that. Other than that, I'm going to keep it nice and short and sweet. Please continue to share the episode. Please follow the show. It is very important. And comment if you want to comment. Obviously, follow the show if you like the show. If you don't like it, don't follow it. Follow us on social media at More Than an Inmate's GF on TikTok and at podcast_prison GF on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. And we are getting into the second season. We're starting to dig deep and get into some really juicy episodes. So I'm looking forward to it. So with that, I'm going to leave it. Here is Carla's episode on the rodeo and her man, Joseph. I hope you like it. Welcome, Karla. Thank you so much for coming and joining me today.
No problem.
I cannot wait to speak to you about your loved one and your experiences, but for those of you that don't know yet, how did you first come across your fiance?
So it was Labor Day weekend of 2023, and I remember my ex-husband, a few months prior to that, told me about a documentary called Louisiana Lockdown. Fast forward to Labor Day weekend, I was by myself, and I decided to play it. I was like, you know what, I'll watch it. I got nothing else to do. And then episode 1 is the intro to the prison, and I saw episode 2 and started it, and I was shook. I was like, who is this man? I felt an instant connection to him, and it was I couldn't hear a word he was saying. I was just staring at him, and I even was in awe because I just felt this connection there that I didn't even hear the charges he was in there for, how long his sentence was. I just saw him on the TV.
Whoa. Has that ever happened to you before?
It has never happened to me before. I didn't even hear him say his name or his nickname. The feeling was so surreal that there was such an emotional connection there, and I could feel it. It's the type of experience where you just have to live it yourself to understand. So it was pretty crazy. And
then was it immediate that you were I need to know this person?
So after that happened, I was like, hold up. I came back to reality, and I was we have to rewind because I missed why he's in prison, how long he has. And when he said his charges and how long he has, I said, you got to be kidding me, because it was 100 years. Mm-hmm. So I did watch episode 2 and a little bit of episode 3, and then I actually just sat there for a little bit and was like, Karla, this is crazy that you're even considering writing a letter, because I thought I would have had to write a letter at that time.
Yeah.
And then I paused, watched the rest of it. It took me 6 hours, and exactly at 1 a.m., I sent my first email to him.
Oh my gosh. And have you ever written to anybody who's incarcerated before?
No, I didn't even know they had emails or tablets. I
Yeah.
thought I would have to write a letter, but I looked up how do you write to an inmate in Louisiana? How do you find one? Is this man even still alive? That's what I was thinking.
This is
Um,
wild.
yeah. So then I figured out they have tablets. I was like, oh, fancy.
Yeah.
And then I searched him up. All I had was his first and last name and the prison, and I was hoping he was still there.
Mm-hmm.
If not, that would have made it even more complicated. And there were 3 Joseph Wards who popped up.
Oh gosh.
And there was one Joseph Ward who was black. The other 2 were white. But based off the ages, I did an estimate, and I selected the one I thought it would be.
Oh my God.
It was the right one, thankfully. But yeah, that's how I found him, through the Louisiana inmate search.
Mhm.
And then I typed up this email introducing him to myself because I'm like, what does someone say?
Yeah.
I saw you on TV, and I was amazed.
Mhm.
That sounds so weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually said, Dear Redneck, 'cause I used his nickname that was on the documentary, and I introduced myself, like who I am, a little bit about my family, my hobbies, and then I was like, this is kind of strange for him to get a letter or an email like this from a stranger, so I'm going to put a photo with it.
Mm.
Because I was like, if I was him, I would want to know what stranger is talking to me right now.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I sent a picture too because I was like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's cheating. You're talking to someone that you don't even know what they look like, and I know exactly what you look like. I feel like that's not fair.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I get it. So on the Louisiana website, it doesn't have their pictures.
No.
Oh. And was he surprised to get a message from you, or had he received a lot of messages over the years?
Yeah, so after we emailed back and forth, I did ask that question. And he said, I usually just delete these messages because I've gotten so many of them over the years from men and women. And he told me something about your message made me reply.
Whoa, that's weird.
You know?
And how did it develop? Were you guys friends first?
So when I tell you, at first I literally thought he was love bombing me. I'm not kidding you. Because it was about 7 days into it, he comes back with, I love you, you're my soulmate.
Whoa.
I'm like, okay, why don't we meet each other first? You never know. I said you could think I'm immature in person because I'm so much younger than you are.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I just know it. And then he didn't even ask me to be his girlfriend. He just started to call me his girlfriend.
Mm.
And then it really developed quickly. I would never say we were pen pals or friends. It kind of just went from strangers to soulmates in a week.
Wow. And did you tell anybody that you were doing this, or did you keep it a secret?
So the first week, I didn't tell anyone because, like, how do you even explain that to people? But then I slowly told my friends who, I'm actually no longer friends with them because of this situation. At first, they were like, oh, I think Karla's just on a little adventure. She's having a little bit of a crisis. This isn't that serious. Let's have her have some fun.
Mm.
You know, it wasn't serious to them until I got back from the rodeo that they were like, what do you mean you're going to go see him at an actual visit?
So before we get into the rodeo part, was that the first time you met him?
Yes. Not the first time I've seen him because we can send videos to each other.
Oh, cool.
And he sent me a video, and then he asked me to send him one back to verify that I was not a catfish because people in his camp were like, oh, she's fake. She's really a man. She's playing you. She's not even going to show up. She doesn't look like that. So then I want to say maybe day 4 of talking, he asked me to send the video back, and I did.
Mm.
And I proved to him I was a real person.
And then did he invite you to the rodeo?
He did tell me, you have to come to the October rodeo so we can meet. And at this point, I had no intention of going because I thought 600 inmates would be there, and I've never been around an inmate or around people who have committed crimes or a prison, a jail, nothing. And I did say to him, why don't we shoot for, like, the April one? Because at this point it was Labor Day, like, in September. And when he said October, like, that's next month.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, how about we do April? And then he kept mentioning October. And I was like, you know what, Karla? If we're going to do this, we might as well just get it over with. and go 100% in. We are going to the October rodeo, even though it's a few weeks away.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I watched the documentary, so I would feel the same way as you. And I remember when I went to a prison, and it's very secure, and I was still
Yeah.
nervous. So I can't imagine going to a place where there is a large number of people that have committed, some of them very serious crimes, and they're just
Yeah.
intermingled with the population. So are you far from the rodeo? Did you have to travel far that day?
Yeah, it was. So I stayed overnight just because it is 6.5 hours one way.
Oh, wow. And did you go alone?
Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I walked in the rodeo. I was the 12th person to be there. Got there at 8 o'clock. It was just a bunch of inmates and 12 free people. And that is how I found him so quickly. I walked in all alone, and he actually approached me. He found me, and I was kind of relieved he found me, because when I saw him, I would have never recognized him, because for some reason in my head, I was looking for the man on the documentary, even though he sent me a video.
Right. And the documentary was from like 10 years ago.
And obviously, everyone gets older.
Yeah.
And he definitely did look older than he did in the documentary. It all worked out. It's crazy because I tell people this all the time. I don't view him as a 42-year-old. I still view him as the 28-year-old I saw on the documentary.
Right. And so that experience of going in, I'm sure you've been to rodeos before, was it very different than a regular rodeo?
So that was my first rodeo I've ever been to.
Oh, so you didn't even know what you were walking into?
Yeah, I've never been to a rodeo. So I even have the comfort of knowing the rodeo events that people do. Mm-hmm. Nothing.
And did you know what to wear? Is there restrictions?
So I did call the Angola Rodeo people and asked if there's a dress code, and they said no. So I was like, what would Barbie wear to a rodeo? Because I was going for rodeo Barbie, and that's how I got my outfit that I wore.
I love it.
Which the outfit they did not care for. I found that out later on.
So going back to when you guys first saw each other, he looked a little bit different than usual. Did you have any different feelings? I mean, you finally saw him in person?
No, it was the same. It literally didn't matter that he wasn't the person I was expecting. I was so happy to see him. Still had that instant connection there. So all of that didn't even matter.
Aww. Was he shy? Was your interactions a little awkward at the beginning, or was it just comfortable?
It was comfortable. So Joseph naturally is an introvert, but when he walked up to me, he hugged me right away. He told me that, like, he was scared for his life to do that because he's naturally an introvert. But how he introduced himself, you would think he was outgoing. He was like, I was very nervous and terrified, but I was like, I have to do it.
Yeah. And did he get to spend the whole day with you?
Yes, we spent about 8 hours together that day.
Because in the documentary, it looked like, or if I remember correctly, they said some of the guys are behind fences, like they can't interact, and then some of them can. Is that true?
Yeah, so honestly, that day at the rodeo, I really stayed around where Joseph was. I unfortunately did not walk around and see anything else besides where Joseph was. And I think there are men behind, like, fences. I did not see them myself. I saw mostly inmates who were walking around in the area I was in. And that day, Joseph did have to work a few of the events, but I just stood near him as he was working.
And what was he doing at the rodeo?
He was working the barrel racer event they have, like opening the gate, and I just stood there on the side with all these barrel racers coming in and out on their horses, and I'm also terrified of horses.
Oh, wow.
And that day, I was on guard with these horses. I was, like, not getting too close, making sure I'm far enough away that I don't get trampled or something. I was staring these horses down. I know where each horse is right now.
Forget the guys that are incarcerated. It's all about the horses attacking.
Yeah, yeah, honestly, when I got there, I was more scared of these horses than of the men.
That's crazy. And how was it? Like, the interaction with people versus guys that are incarcerated? They're obviously dressed different in the documentary. They were anyways. So you know who's incarcerated and who's not. Are the
Yeah.
interactions weird?
No, so I met a few other people on that documentary that day. I met a man named Travis, and I didn't meet a whole lot of other inmates, which probably Joseph did not want me to.
Right.
But I did meet plenty of prison employees, like guards. He introduced me to quite a few of them, so many that I do not remember a majority of their names. So I met mostly like prison employees.
Oh, wow. Interesting. And you felt comfortable the whole time?
Yeah, I never felt uncomfortable that day at all, from the prison guards to the inmates, like 100% safe.
Wow. Cool. I feel weird. Like the whole idea of the rodeo, and AJ and I had found out about the rodeo a couple months ago, and we talked about it and we were like, I feel like it's weird. Like the poker one where like the bull or like it's just part of it feels like not okay. But then when I watched the documentary, I was like, well, it's a really cool opportunity for these guys to not only earn some money but like prove that they're rehabilitated. And so I have all these mixed feelings about it. How do you feel overall about the rodeo, and how does Joseph feel about it?
So for me, when I first heard about the rodeo, when I watched it, I immediately thought, wow, people are paying $20 to see these inmates get hurt like they're not human beings. And then I also had a brief thought about the animals, like, are they treating them right?
Right.
But then when I saw it in person, I still feel very torn on it. People are paying because either they have family members who are inmates, and I totally understand why you would go to see your family member and to support them, but also there are quite a few people, probably hundreds of people, who go because they are cheering on inmates because they want them to get hurt.
Really? There are people that actually go there for that?
I mean, they'll never tell you that, but you can sense the vibe for sure. I just feel like people are there to support them, but others may have more ill intentions that they'll never say out loud, but they're thinking it.
Right.
And then also, me personally, I would never purchase hobbycraft from those inmates, not because I don't think it's good. I think a lot of it is fantastic, but the prison does take a majority of their profit, so I feel like I'm paying to promote slavery.
Oh, yeah. And they wouldn't have promoted that, so you would know that because of Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph, as an inmate, he feels a little differently than I do. He says that it was a great time because he was able to feel free.
Yeah.
Even though when he did the rodeo event years ago, there was a high risk of him getting hurt. And as you saw on the rodeo documentary, he did get hurt. But he said, it's just worth it because I feel so free doing it. And I'm sure a lot of them do feel free, and they may not acknowledge or do not want to think about that the prison is profiting off of them, and people are paying to watch them get on the animals and potentially get hurt. But Joseph does think that it's a good experience for him to have. He doesn't really see it negative until I point out some things to him. So, like 6 months into the relationship, I was like, I can't believe you really liked participating in the rodeo because I just feel like they're promoting slavery. And I explained some things to him, like, you get paid $20 a week and you're taking care of all these animals, and major corporations are making money off of you, and the prison's making money off of you. And he never really viewed it like that until I said that out loud, because I never wanted to say that out loud to him in the beginning because I didn't want to hurt his feelings or to get into a disagreement about it. So I just kept it to myself. But towards when we got to know each other over the months, it did come out, and he definitely views it as it was a good experience for him, but he understands that I explained what the major corporations are profiting of and what the prison is profiting off. Now he has a deeper understanding, and I think it was a little hard for him to grasp that on his own because he's been doing these rodeos for over 10 years, and he also was not educated on these facts.
I feel like it's such a catch-22 because they're profiting off these guys, but yet the guys feel like they're getting so much out of it when really they're not. But it is way more than they would normally get. So
for sure.
How do you even, like you said, they are profiting, but then it's hard to make that distinguish, like, is it okay to support it? Is it not okay to support it? I don't even know. I'm sitting here like, I don't know if...
Yeah, I know other Louisiana prison wives. The ones I talk to, they love going to see their loved one, of course. So they will always go. But then they do acknowledge, too, like, what's going on behind the scenes with the profit.
Right. And on the documentary, it does feel like these guys are trying to go. I think, was it Travis, the one that almost didn't go and then ended up winning that round?
Yeah, so I think Travis was the one who had all those write-ups, and he had to go to the warden to get approved to go to the rodeo.
So in the story, it's like everybody wants to go, and they make it seem like it's a really big deal, and all these guys try really hard to make it there. So that's actually true then. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so the rodeo is voluntary. They don't have to go, but they want to because it's another opportunity to be free for a few seconds and to see family and friends.
For long term.
Right.
Has Joseph ever shared with you any time where something's gone wrong there? Or when you were there, did anything go wrong?
When I was there, not necessarily things going wrong during the rodeo, like security-wise. I think a few years back, though, there was a inmate who was accused of harming a teenage girl who was a minor in one of the bathrooms.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but I think that's really it for, like, security things that have happened at the rodeo. I can't remember of any other events security-wise.
Because I remember, for me, when I visit my husband... Before, when I first met him, he was allowed to be in street clothes, and then they changed the laws that he has to be in state-issued clothing, so like khakis, when they go to visitation now. And it still feels kind of like I'm just visiting him, like it's not really real. And I remember one time we were taking pictures, and then he put his hand in his pocket just for nothing, and then they were like, stop, empty your pockets. And it was like all of a sudden, like in the flick of an instant, you're reminded that he's a ward of the state.
Right.
And we have to show our pockets. And it was nothing. He wasn't doing anything. Obviously, we weren't doing anything sketchy. But it was just a very quick reminder of, oh, wait a minute. There are people watching us 24/7 while we're visiting. Did you feel that?
Yeah. Honestly, I felt like no one was watching us. I felt like we were very free there. However, it turns out they were watching us.
So how did your day end? Tell me.
So I walked away around 2 p.m. It was awesome. The whole day went so well. However, as I was walking away, I hear this yelling, and I briefly turn around, and I can no longer see Joseph, and I see all these people around him, and I thought the yelling was, like, joking because they saw us all day long, you know, no issues. And I'm like, oh, he's fine. They're just kidding with him, talking about the prison employees.
Yeah.
And I keep walking, and I get in my car and go. After this, I did not hear from him for 4 days. And at this point, I was like, maybe he's busy. Maybe he just wasn't feeling it all of a sudden. Maybe it's getting too much. So I was like, okay, maybe we just need to move on here. Well, 4 days later, I get a call, and I answer that phone call. And the first thing he says is they took everything from me.
What?
And I was in shock. I was like, what do you mean? And he said, after you walked away, they put me in handcuffs and put me in the dungeon, which is like the hole. And I got in trouble. And then the next thing he says was, you're still coming to see me at our scheduled visit, right? Because at the rodeo, we planned another visit. And I was like, of course I'm coming to see you. It doesn't matter that you're not a trustee and they took it away from you. That doesn't matter. I don't care. Because in his mind, he did tell me, I thought since I wasn't a trustee anymore that you wouldn't want to be with me. And I was like, that is crazy. Because I said, it doesn't matter if you're a trustee, if you're not a trustee. At the end of the day, you're still in prison. And I know that. I didn't come to see you because, oh, he's a trustee and that's the only reason. I came to see you because even though you're an inmate, I wanted to meet you. So at that point, our next visit came, and what I saw was shocking when I walked in. I saw a screen and him shackled in an orange jumpsuit.
No.
And yes, at that moment, I only had a second to take it all in before they made me sit down. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm really in a prison.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I've really ever processed I was in a penitentiary.
And you were dating someone who was incarcerated?
Yes.
Crazy. I've never seen that. I've never seen my husband shackled. When you said that just now, my heart almost stopped. I can't imagine how that must feel, because I'm sure you loved him at this point and you're seeing him like
that. And not only was he in the jumpsuit with the shackles, the screen, he looked like a mess for sure, very disheveled, like he's been through it, and he was sweating so much. It literally looks like he just got out of the shower. That's how wet he was.
Why?
So in the hole, and I guess the whole dungeon, it is very hot, and even though it was like October, it's still really hot in Louisiana. And I guess where he's at, it's like a small confined space in the hole, so you sweat, and you're only allowed to leave 1 hour out of 23 hours. And I guess you could take a shower, you could call people, and in my head, I just saw you in street clothes.
Yeah.
Looking your best at your highest point. And a few days later, we are now at rock bottom, and you're in a jumpsuit shackled.
That's so sad. How long was he in the dungeon for?
I would say like 2 or 3 weeks before he got moved to a disciplinary camp.
In the documentary, is that the one where they go and do field work and stuff?
So in the documentary, he was moved to something called Camp D. Camp D is mentioned in the documentary, and I didn't really catch that until I rewatched it while he was at Camp D. He didn't even get an opportunity to work, to go in the field. He was still at the bottom level where they just keep you in the cell for 23 hours.
Wow. And you mentioned the trustee, and I think a lot of people probably don't know what that means. Can you elaborate about what it is and how hard it is to actually get it?
Yeah, so a trustee is a trusted inmate who has good behavior. You can trust them to do the right thing, trust them to not try to escape, trust them to do their job on their own without a lot of supervision, and it usually takes 10 years.
Wow.
Joseph was able to make trustee in about 8, and he was able to make it a little sooner because he had a warden at Angola who was willing to take a chance on him before he really hit his eligibility date to become one. And the warden said, I'm going to put my trust in you. Do not break it. And Joseph, that's how he was a trustee since 2008, 2009. And you got to also be classified as a low-risk offender. And obviously, being a trustee, when you get in trouble, your worst fear is getting your status taken away.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how they promote good behavior continuously through the trustee system, is because when they take it away, you could go into a field, you could have a really bad job, you could be cell-confined. But usually, when you get in trouble as a trustee, that's not a permanent status change. You can work your way back up to being one.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like he completely lost it. It was temporary.
Right. Yes. He lost it in total for 3 months.
Oh, lucky. Because, I mean, the amount of time and energy that he would have put into getting it, and then you said 2008, and this happened in 2023. So he was able to maintain trustee for that long?
Yes.
Wow. And it sounds like it's such a pride thing, something that he's really proud of.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Even still to this day, he talks about at Angola, I was this, I had this job. And Angola is very unique, where he had a very good job there, a lot of freedoms. And the other prisons in Louisiana don't have the exact Angola system. So he's been a trustee at other prisons in 2023. When he left Angola, he became a trustee at Elaine Hunt. And the freedoms were not the same, and that did affect his pride a little bit. He would say, well, at Angola, I was able to do this and that, and at Elaine Hunt, you're barely a trustee when you're a trustee. And so the change in prison was definitely a lot for him, going from all the freedoms as a trustee to becoming a different type of trustee at Elaine Hunt and then David Wade. There's a different lifestyle for him for sure that messed with him a little bit.
Right. So that's why when he ended up in the dungeon and he said they've taken everything away from him, they really took everything from him because this really is so important.
Yeah, they took everything from his status to his belongings to even his clothes because he was in the orange. So
how did your relationship develop during that time? Did you guys get stronger?
Yeah, and this is so crazy to me because you would think when it's very new and the pressure is so high and it's stressful and there's a lot of unknowns that would break people. Mm-hmm. But even though he only could call me maybe once or twice a day for 3 months, those 1 to 2 phone calls, I made sure I answered no matter what. And we always, every single day of those 3 months, except for one day, we talked because I knew this is the only chance that he has today to call me. So I have to be around my phone. My phone was attached to me all the time in those 3 months, just in case. And we actually got so much closer. And I think one silver lining to this Camp D dungeon experience was it really made us stronger and closer so much faster than I think we would have gotten if he was a trustee.
Yeah. And I think the fact that you stayed through those difficulties, like going and visiting him, knowing it would just be through a screen.
Yes.
And then the limited contact. A lot of people, and I know my husband says this too, is that a lot of times women just drop off in that moment. And you really stuck it out.
Yeah, that was his concern. Joseph, when he called me right after the rodeo, like 4 days later, that was his concern because he said, he'll be so mad if I say this, but I'll say it anyway. You could hear him start to cry on the phone. And he said, do you still want to be with me? So your husband's definitely right. That thought did go through Joseph's head.
Yeah. And I was talking to another guy that's incarcerated, and he's a lifer, and he's like, the change that when you find a good woman and you know you found a good woman, he's like, the impact that you can have on this man's life is next level. Like, you can't compare it to outside.
Yeah.
It's such a difference. So the thought of him losing you, it must have destroyed him. So to have you stay, I can imagine it makes sense that your relationship would solidify so much in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that he probably was a nervous wreck for those 4 days he couldn't call.
And you were too, though.
Yes, I was. I was like, what happened? Did he not like me anymore? Did he ghost me? Is he just too busy? I had all these things go through my head, and at the time, I was friends with somebody who was also a prison wife in Louisiana, and they said, do you think he's under investigation? And I'm like, he didn't do anything. Well, it turns out he was.
Yeah. So he had been incarcerated for quite a long time when you guys met. Is this the first big relationship that he's been in, or had he dated previously?
So I am actually Facebook friends with someone. They both said they didn't really date. They went to visit him a few times. So we'll call it a little fling. This fling was like a few months, and it happened in 2012. Right now, she is living her best life, married, and has kids, and I'm happy for her. But outside of that, there has been no relationship ever.
Wow. And because he was so young, how old was he when he was incarcerated?
17.
17. So him being a juvenile offender, and you met him when he was in his late 30s or early 40s, right? So he basically grew up there.
Yeah, he went in at 17, and I met him when he was 40.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so my husband has been in for 14 years, and his track record at the beginning was not the greatest. He's only very recently, we're talking in the last year and a half, 2 years, decided to change his life and be positive. But your fiance has really stuck it pretty much since the beginning, correct?
So prior to 2009, Joseph said he was a fighter. When he was 17, his teenage years in Angola, he was not the best person to be around. In fact, he fought so much, they put him on the boxing team.
Oh, wow.
So up until 2009, he was not a joy to be around for sure, and he definitely was doing the most.
And what made him change?
He discovered his passion for animals and horses that really, it actually was therapeutic to him. He says it helped him stop getting so mad, stop being angry, and he said I knew in order to be around those horses, I needed to maintain a trustee status, and that means not acting out. So it's really the motivator for him was the ability to have all those freedoms and to be around horses. That did change him a lot.
And because he basically grew up in there, I'm curious about, because you said at the beginning that you had been previously married, how do you think that he's different than men that haven't been incarcerated or haven't grown up in the prison system? Do you find there's a lot of difference?
I do. My ex-husband, he's actually from Louisiana as well. So apparently Louisiana men are attracted to me. But Joseph is so different from someone who's free, especially men. I have never met a man who is such a good communicator or someone who takes direction or understands boundaries or wants to work through problems without yelling. Joseph has never yelled at me. Now, I have yelled at him. As me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is so calm. He always wants to work through things. He never gives up on the relationship. He's never told me this is too much. It's just like day and night. Mm-hmm. And I always talk about this with my friends who also have somebody in jail or prison. And it's crazy that all these men in prison get like bad raps about them when Joseph is the best man I've met. So I'm like, how is someone who is classified as a violent offender and has been in prison for 25 years outdoing all the men I've met out here?
Yeah, I know. It's weird. I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
And there is a large age gap between you guys. Did that ever become an issue for you?
No. So I actually talked to Joseph about this. I joke with him that he's an old man. And he's like, 14 years is not really that many years. I'm like, yeah, it is, Joseph. I said, when you got arrested, I was 3. Just so we can process that. It's never been a problem. And I always tell him, either I'm mature or you are immature. We haven't figured out which one yet.
Oh, I love it. So it hasn't really bothered you guys, but it did get you into an article, correct?
It did, yeah. So I was in one of those prison wife Facebook groups, and I guess the reporter got in from the Sun newspaper. And she messaged me, and she said, "Hi, Carla. I'm a reporter from the Sun newspaper." And I saw, because I, introduced myself on the Facebook page, so she was looking through all of them. I saw your introduction, and the Sun is interested in writing about you because you have something unique and what I've noticed a pattern of, that usually the woman is older or they're the same age as the man, but you're one of the few who is substantially younger than the man in prison, and we would like to write about it. So I actually never really noticed ages of people when I went to visit or even in the prison groups until that was brought to my attention through the reporter. And I started to be more observant, and I do notice that either the ages are very close together or the woman is older. It's very rare you see a younger woman with a man in prison. And honestly, I hate that. That's a stereotype for prison wives. They say, oh, they're older, they're desperate, they're overweight. And I hate that. That's a stereotype for us because it's not true.
Exactly.
But yes, that is the reason that the Sun was interested in writing about us.
That's crazy. But you're right. And after we talked to you the first time, we were like, is there anyone in our community, in our circle, or that we've met so far that's husband or boyfriend is older than them? And you're right. Yeah. I think you're the only one.
Yeah. Usually I see maybe they're 2 to 3 years apart, or the woman is 5 years plus older than him, which I did also notice that a majority of my friends in the prison wife community are older than me too.
You know what? I noticed that too. And you are young. You're younger than me too.
Yeah.
But it is true that most of them are older even than me. And me and my husband, I'm technically older than him, but by 9 months. But other than that, it's mostly a couple years older or more. It's weird how that happens, and I don't know why. Because out here, I've always or mostly dated people that were older than me. And when the reporter interviewed you, what was that like? Was it pretty straightforward? Was it weird? Were they invasive?
No, so they were super nice. Our article was in the Sun, UK, US, Ireland, Scotland, and Australia, and then it was bought by a magazine called The Closer and That's Life, which are UK based. And the whole process was honestly great. I was a little hesitant because I've heard horror stories about when they interview you, you do the interview, and all of a sudden they're writing about something that you didn't even said and take it out of context.
Yep.
But in all the articles, there were 3, they actually sent the article to me to approve before they published it, which I appreciated.
Yeah, for real.
And they said if there's anything you're uncomfortable with, anything you want us to take out, to reword, just let us know. And I told them some changes I wanted in the articles, and they made those changes, and they were posted. They didn't say anything that they weren't supposed to say or twist anything. Now, they did make it, like, headline catching, of course, because that's their job. But outside of that, they were really upfront and honest about their work.
And I agree. I love the article, and we will post it so people can read it, because it is really nice, and the pictures are really beautiful, even though they probably didn't take them. You took them.
Yes.
And it's just really represented nicely, so I really liked it. So then, out of everything and looking through your relationship, what would you say is the hardest thing that you've gone through so far?
The hardest thing we've gone through is parole. So our law was changed in Louisiana, where you have to be 3 years right up free to be eligible for parole. And it was in July that law changed. We were under the assumption that his parole eligibility would be in 2025. And since that law changed, it was changed to 2026. And we did get some wrong info as well, which made it even worse, that his parole eligibility wasn't until 2028, but that's incorrect. So at that time, I heard 2026, 2028. I heard both numbers. And all I could think about was like, okay, but it's not in 2025. I don't care if it's in 2026 or 2028. It's not this year. And I was prepared for 2025. And when I learned that it has changed, I literally cried all day. And a majority of my prison friends, my friends, have significant others who are life without parole. And I didn't really want to tell them my problem because, I mean, I'm sure they would have been super sympathetic and understanding, but to say that to somebody who some of their husbands are on death row, no parole eligibility at all, I kind of had to keep it to myself because I didn't want to be that person to have a mental breakdown over that. So that was the hardest thing. I told Joseph I need some time to myself during that day when I found out, but call me at 7 p.m. because Joseph is new to relationships, so if I just said I just need time to myself, he would have thought the worst. Like, oh my gosh, he's never going to answer my phone call again. He's gone. And even though I told him, call me at 7, he still thought the worst. He still thought I was leaving him.
Okay.
So that was probably the hardest thing we've been through, because it's not a write-up. It's not like, oh, you got in trouble, your status got taken away. That's really like our life, the parole eligibility date. So that was a really hard thing to get through. But I will say second place to that was his last transfer happened December 15th. And the holidays are hard in general with, like, you see everyone out here with their families and their husbands or their wives and their kids, and, like, your person is in prison. And then he calls me December 15th and is like, hey, I don't know when you'll hear from me again because they're shipping me out, like, a week before Christmas. So that means I couldn't even visit him for Christmas or in January. I had to wait till February. It was a rough time.
Yeah. It's so impactful when you lose touch with your loved one and you can't see them when anticipated, and you have no control.
Yeah, and I think why that transfer in December was so hard was because the previous year he was transferred in November, and I couldn't see him for November or December or January. So this was the second Christmas in a row that I could not see him. So that's also what triggered me in that one.
Yeah. And what can you do? Because it's not his fault, but yet you're still upset. Same thing with the parole. It's not his fault, but you're still upset. So how do you do that?
So with the transfers, he was was able to have immediate family come visit him, but I'm the only person who comes to visit him, and I am not related to him. So I am not immediate family. So he had no visitors during the holidays. So it was very traumatic. And then you have the fact that people are trying to be like, Merry Christmas all the time, Christmas music, and you're like trying to be happy, and you just can't.
Yeah.
Be happy.
I had the same problem. I was supposed to get married on Christmas Day, and then they canceled it, and they canceled my visit and all that stuff. And you're just like, I don't want to be around anybody. And I had people inviting me to their dinners and stuff, and super grateful for it for sure. But it was like, I can't. Like, I'm just going to bring down the whole mood because it's crushing.
Exactly.
The one person you want to see, you can't. And yeah, it's like a adjustment that you have to make because it's not your fault that you can't see your loved one.
Exactly.
And when you were speaking about that whole thing about your friends being lifers, my husband's a lifer. I go through the opposite side because I'll have friends that, AJ, for example, her boyfriend, this law might be changing and it makes him eligible for parole immediately.
Okay.
And she's like telling me about it and she's super excited about it. But then she's like, I feel bad, like, talking to you about this because of the situation you're in. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm really excited. I hope Dee gets out. Dee has earned it. You know? So yeah, it's hard because she felt the same as you. She didn't want to be that person. But at the same time, I'm like, no, that's okay. Like, I made this choice to marry the man who's deserving a life without parole.
Right.
I understand that's going to be a minute before he gets out, but it's so tricky because you're right. It's almost like, it reminds me of like people who are trying to conceive and then have families, and it's sensitive.
Right.
That's a sensitive
for sure.
topic. So what are your guys' future plans?
So this is one of the benefits about me being so much younger.
Yeah.
Our ability to have a family will come true when he's paroled. So that's not a concern. And we plan to get married. It could be in 2 weeks, actually. So I will keep you updated on that.
Yeah. Do you plan on living in Louisiana?
How we view it right now, if he's forced to live in Louisiana, we'll live there. If he's not forced and he can transfer, we will not live there.
Okay. Are you worried at all about him coming home?
So I feel like as an MWI, you always have those worries in the back of your mind. It's always that 1%. And especially because you hear all the bad stories and you have people out here who tell you like, oh, they're never rehabilitated, they're violent people and all those things. And it can just get to you.
Yep.
Like, it really can. Like, Joseph is always like, oh, but that's not us. But I'm like, but you don't live it. You don't see the comments on Facebook. You don't hear what people say. So I do have a 1% concern. I'm like, is he going to be the same person that I know when he gets out, when you take away the guards and the cameras and the supervision and the monitoring, which me and him have actually set boundaries. And these boundaries were recently created not because he was breaking them, but because of our upcoming marriage. We are signing a prenuptial agreement, and in the agreement has boundaries that I've set for him. And there are things that I would have problems with, like him getting a visit from a random female without letting me know. Let's see. Him going to a strip club when he gets out. Just things that would bother me.
Yeah. And you put them in the prenup?
I did.
Wow.
Yes, I did, because I told him this isn't just a financial prenup. I want you to know the things that you cannot do that would really hurt me in this contract. And he read through it. We read through it together. I did have to break some things down to him. But I did have to break things down, especially when you've been locked up that long. You've never had a chance to experience life or even hear the word prenuptial or postnuptial or see a wedding ceremony. So we did have to do some explaining. But in that prenup, that's where I laid down the ground rules. So we do not have any miscommunication. And when I was doing this, I was like, this is the first time I've actually ever told any man, like, straight up what would bother me. And it felt nice doing that, knowing that I knew he wasn't going to, like, freak out or yell. Probably at most just need some explanation behind it. But it all went well. And I would say to anyone who is an MWI, who has some concerns about the future is maybe not go to the as a prenuptial. You could just write down a list of boundaries that you have, and you expect those boundaries to be respected in prison and outside of prison.
I agree. I think when Nick and I didn't sign a prenuptial and we thought about it and we talked a lot about it,
Yeah.
but we had so many hours of conversation around exactly what you said, like different boundaries, different feelings about different things, different anticipations, because you never know. And Nick served a long time. He hasn't served 25 years, but if he might be by the time he comes out, who knows what we're going to face. It's going to be hard.
Right.
The adjustment, the anxieties, the fears, it's crazy. And we're MWI also, which is met while incarcerated, for those people that don't know what that is. So yeah, it is super important. I agree with you. And I love the idea that you ironed out not only financial, but also emotional and expectations to your marriage. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think even in marriages out here, those are more used for finances.
Mm-hmm.
But I created mine for a little bit of finances, but more for like behaviors. I feel like people should do this more out here.
Same.
It's a great way to put things all on the table before you get into a marriage. You're acknowledging what you're signing. Everyone understands. So you're not married and all of a sudden you're having problems with boundaries and expectations.
And as you're talking, I'm thinking about the people that I know that have prenuptial agreements. And I'm like, wow, I think those are the happiest marriages that I know, because they did have one. They did have a conversation, which is interesting. So, yeah.
For sure.
You have a good friend who's going to come on here who's met before incarcerated, so MBI.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you find that your relationships are different? Because there's so much talk about MBI versus MWI.
Yes. And I've met her in person. I've heard her talk on the phone to her husband. So I know quite a bit about them. And I would say a big difference is some of the problems that may arise. So with my friend, her husband, who's in jail right now, they lived a life together. So they went to bars together, to places, experienced things together. So I think when you have done that and then it's taken away from you, both people have a hard time. I think the free person has a hard time because they just remember the memories and it's so sad and it's hard for them to continue life without you. And then the person in jail may feel like, why are you there without me? And obviously have the worst fears they probably could have. What happens if they find someone else? What happens if they get hurt and I'm not there to help them? All those things versus me and Joseph. We've never experienced any of those things together. So we don't have the concept of, oh, I saw your old friends at the bar I went to. We don't have those issues and that type of situation. We also don't have the stress, and my heart goes out to her and her husband because I can't even imagine the stress they're under with the initial jail intake to the lawyer to the pretrial, the trial, the sentencing. Then he has to go to a prison and through the intake process again, and you may not know how long you'll hear from him. And then you have in Louisiana, in jail, you don't have in-person visits. They're 15-minute visits over a video once a week, and that would crush me alone. I'm not going to lie. But then with MWI, you may not have those type of pressures, but you have re-entry pressures. You have parole requirement, and they will also have that too.
Yeah.
Sometime down the road. Me and her were actually talking about this concept yesterday, and I also feel like in my case, I met Joseph at the tail end of his time before he could be eligible for parole. I met him around his 23-year mark, and he needs 25 years, and he made 25 years this year. So I didn't have to experience those 23 years and the ups and downs and him getting used to jail and used to prison. I walked in to a seasoned inmate who's been there for decades.
Yep.
So I didn't have to experience those types of hardship. But then also I feel like with an MWI, you always have the unknown of, I wonder what they'll be like out here. You have to somehow learn about their past life. Like, I always want to know about Joseph's past life, and I don't know what he looks like before the age of 20. There's no photos of him.
Seriously?
Yet his family don't have any photos of him. The only picture I have of him is at 20 years old, and it's his mugshot when he got to Angola, because he was in jail prior to that. I don't even have his initial mugshot photo when he was 17. I just know what he looked like when he was 20, 28, sometime in his 30s, and in his 40s. So there's a lot of gaps missing, and I just want to get to know that person. He also doesn't have any friends that he kept outside of prison who knew him growing up. So that's really hard when that happens, because you're kind of cut off at the age of 20, and now you're just living in suspense. Like, what were you like, though?
Yeah.
So I would say that's the hard part. But then also with an MBI, like, you may have known them going into jail or prison, but those experiences can change people, and that person getting out may not be the same person who went in.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking as you were speaking, because we spoke to a guy a couple weeks ago, and he was saying, like, it doesn't matter who that person was when they went in. They're not going to be the person when they come out, and that needs to be known and emphasized, because it don't matter if you knew them or you didn't. They're a new person when they come out.
Right.
And you have to
I bet.
adjust.
It's probably life-changing.
Yeah. And he's like, people met while you're incarcerated, you've never seen him walk down a street before. You've never seen him interact at a Walmart with crowd. You've gotten a little bit more because of the rodeo, but he's right. I've never seen Nick outside. So
yeah, and I think even at the rodeo, there's still cameras, still guards, so it's not completely free, but it's the freest example I will have.
Yeah. And how would you say this experience has changed you? Yeah.
I have become so strong, so sympathetic for somebody. And I say that because prior to this, I was definitely the person to be like, lock them up and throw away the key. No sympathy. And I hate saying that now, because now that I know so much about prisons and Department of Corrections and how things are not what they seem to be, I'm like, wow, Karla, that was really closed-minded back then. And Joseph even knows how I used to be. Like, everyone in prison is guilty. That's how I used to think. And I used to be like, oh, those correctional officers, they're risking their lives. They're probably the greatest people. They probably have great morals, every single one of them. That's how I thought. Now, there are COs who really have a passion for corrections.
Yes.
I don't want someone to get that twisted. Just like there's passionate teachers, passionate cops, passionate lawyers, there are those. But like any other job, I have learned there are corrupt people.
Yeah.
And I actually used to be like for maximum sentences until I met Joseph.
Cool.
And I heard his story. The story I heard was what the documentary said. So it does not look good for someone who's like maximum penalties, because they just exaggerate murder, robbery, kidnapping. And for someone who was so for long-term sentences and harsh conditions, in that moment, it's like I didn't even know who I was. When I was like, I don't even care. I need to talk to this man. And in that moment, when I was able to look past those convictions and still send that email, I think that was a life-changing experience for me. And overall, it really has opened up my eyes as to why we should question sentences and question judges and look things over. I think every 10 years, people should be able to have their case reevaluated and re-looked at, and maybe the sentence was too extreme. Maybe the juvenile shouldn't have had such a long sentence. Have some sympathy, and I definitely have evolved for sure. It made me more open-minded. I have become friendly with people who've gotten out of Angola, knowing that they potentially could have murdered somebody. I don't care. I'm like, look, we all make mistakes. You proved that you're rehabilitated, and that's all that matters. And the old Karla would have been like, oh my God, stay away from that person.
I actually love that you said that, all those things, because I was never someone who's like max sentence, but it's important to be honest about what we think. And it's also enlightening, because it makes me feel, as you're talking, that it's possible to change someone's opinion, you know, and that we don't know what we don't know until you know. And then once you know, you're like, oh, wait a minute. And I did have similar kind of hesitations when it comes to someone who's taken a life, because they've taken a life. Like, this is a big deal. And I remember early on in my relationship, I told him that I never wanted to talk to someone who had actually taken a life. And then it so happened that I did. And he was like, and I was like, oh. And I remember the first time I was super uncomfortable and almost judging this
Yeah.
person, right? That I really didn't know. And then when I had this interview with someone who's incarcerated who had taken a life, and then he told me, he's like, you just had a full on interview with someone who had taken a life. And I'm like, wow, you're right. And yet this interview was
Right.
so insightful, and this person has grown so much, and there's so much knowledge, and they've helped me so much along this journey. And it just puts it all into perspective that it's awful and we don't want to take away from victims, and that whole experience is so crushing and the whole thing around it. But we have to also look at the whole circumstance around that person and what they went through to get them to that place where they made this grave mistake.
For sure. The people who got out of Angola, I have messaged them having a panic attack. I've asked them for help. I've asked them questions. What do things mean? How do I get things done? And they have always been so helpful to me. And considering to the world they are a felon and convicted murderers, I'm just like, these people need pardons.
Yeah.
Because I'm not scared of these people. I would feel comfortable with them, and they're willing to get me the answers I need and assist me.
Yeah.
And I think about, it's a shame that the world will always label you as a convicted felon.
Yeah.
When I could see they have good hearts, and even my mind has even changed on the death penalty. I used to be pro death penalty and let's execute them sooner rather than later, until I was educated on the death penalty and how there's been quite a few people on death row who actually did not commit the crime.
Yeah. Or not enough evidence. Even if you think they did.
Right.
Even this year, it's been a bad year. And there are some people that have been executed where it's questionable enough that, you know, these governors and these prisons, they're playing God basically and choosing to end someone's life, which is equally as bad as what happened, right? I just feel like it's not our job as humans to do that. Unless maybe if it's absolutely known and whatever, different story. But yeah, it's interesting. And I love how people are able to grow and we're able to grow. And I agree with you. And it doesn't mean that there aren't monsters out there. It doesn't mean that there are people that shouldn't be in there forever. But the option should be available. And
yeah, I think that's the concept, that going from one extreme to a new viewpoint.
Yeah.
But there are bad people in prison who do deserve to be there, but there also are people who have changed their life.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you've ever thought this through, but I'm like, if only I was there the day that this crime went down, I could have stopped him, knowing I was literally 3 years old. I think to myself, if only I was there, I could have stopped this. Or sometimes, I know this sounds so selfish, especially for an MWI, but I'm like, how could you do this to me? Yeah. Like, why are you in prison? Why did you do this to me? And I know that sounds like crazy considering I signed up for it, but I still think that. I'm like, why did you have to do this?
Me too. I find myself a lot like, I wish I would have known you, because I would have done everything in my power. I would have taken out every loan. I would have sold anything. I literally would have done anything for you to get a good lawyer, because your lawyer is the reason you're incarcerated. It's ridiculous that you're even there. But to him, he's like, yeah, I would do it all over again, because I was a criminal. And he's like, yes, I did not commit a murder. There's no question. But he's like, it doesn't mean that I wasn't a bad person. I just gotten out of prison for burglary. I wasn't doing great things. And he's like, if I didn't have these 14 years in prison, who knows what I would have been doing. Maybe I would have actually killed someone. But yeah, I think about it all the time. I'm like, I wish I would have been there. I wish you wouldn't be incarcerated. I would have given my soul to, to pay a lawyer to get you off on this. But everything happens for a reason.
Exactly.
So, anyways, we've talked about so many different things. But is there anything else that you want the world to know about Joseph before we go?
So Joseph at Angola was known to be not the friendliest person, kind of a loner to himself, would socialize here and there. But I need the world to know, and anyone who has been locked up with Joseph, he is the sweetest person I ever met in my life, and I can't wait for the world to know who that sweet Joseph is.
Aww. And the documentary Can you name which episode it is?
Yes, it is Louisiana Lockdown. You can watch the whole thing on Discovery Plus. And Joseph's episode is episode 2, Prison Suicide. And it does go into a little bit of episode 3. I'm not sure what episode 3's title is, though. So
me and Nick watched it because it was on Animal Planet, and you had mentioned it, so we watched it together, and he really enjoyed it. And he told all the guys in there that they all had to watch it too because you were going to be on the podcast.
Great. It's usually on Animal Planet once a month, and they usually air 2 episodes, but one of them is always Joseph's episode, and the second episode is just a random one. So I don't know why they always air Joseph's episode with a random episode, but I told Joseph it's a shame that you can't get royalties for this. For
right? It was a great episode. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I loved talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.
All right, you too.